Welcome back to Transfers, Tactics, and Targets, an off-season show where we preview what's in store next season for one specific team in the Premier League. Today, our focus is on the perennial silver medalists themselves, the Arsenal. Despite seeming to take a step forward every year, whether it's edging City in the Community Shield or dismantling Madrid 5-1 on aggregate, they haven't lifted a major trophy in 5 years. However, with some serious reinforcements once again coming in, including Zubimendi, Madueke, and the true number 9 in Viktor Gyökeres, Arteta has finally gotten all the pieces he's wanted, at the cost of having no excuses left to fall back on. Will the Gunners finally break through and win a major trophy, or will the Emirates once again collapse under its own weight?
I think we can dive into the signings first, beginning with the move that continues Arsenal's curious habit of raiding Stamford Bridge. Noni Madueke to Arsenal for £52 million raised a few eyebrows, not because of the fee for once, but because it's yet another Chelsea to Arsenal move. Havertz, Jorginho, Willian, and now Kepa. This is becoming a bit of a habit. But this one's different. Madueke is only 23, and unlike some of the others, he's not just surplus baggage for Chelsea. He is a player Arteta has actively chased for his pressing instincts, directness, and flair on the wing. What Madueke offers that Arsenal lacked last season is verticality. Saka remains untouchable, of course, but there were stretches, especially late in tight games, where they missed an out-and-out dribbler who could go at defenders 1v1 and break down a low block. With Madueke, you get some more unpredictability. He's not polished, but that chaos can be helpful, and he gives Arteta something different from the choreographed play that can sometimes stall against more compact sides. There's also the long game here, because if Saka ever needs rest or picks up a knock, Madueke is a real option, not just a makeshift stand-in. Arsenal's drop-off last year without Saka or Martinelli at full tilt was drastic. This transfer here can help close that gap. And yeah, Chelsea's fans might grumble, but it is worth noting Arsenal's hit rate with former Blues has been pretty solid so far. And Madueke might just be the wildcard spark that Arsenal were missing last season.
I mean, I do think that the transfer fee is the big issue for me, though. I agree with you, obviously, that getting a backup for Saka is very important. I mean, I swear every season, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta keep overworking this man to exhaustion to the point of injury. Like, there's no reason, for example, this guy should be playing in the first round of the FA Cup for 74 minutes, for example, because there's no natural right winger to replace him. Now, Noni Madueke is obviously not good enough to be a starter yet, especially when compared to the likes of Saka. But as you're saying, I think similarly to Saka, he is very good at unlocking defenses and dribbling. While of course the finishing is probably still a bit of an issue, a bit of something that needs to be polished. However, because you do need that backup for Saka, I think he is the right move, or at least I think he is potentially a right move. But I just can't justify splashing $50 million on on a unpolished young 23-year-old potential buy who isn't even going to be starting for your team. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I feel like there are definitely better options out there. If you need a backup right winger, somebody who's young and was dynamic, but could also provide a sense of security and give backup to Saka, I just feel like there's probably better buyers out there that could have given you a better bargain than Chelsea.
Yeah, that's definitely fair, but I think Arsenal they really did need the depth here. They've needed depth in quite a lot of positions, I feel like, and they've definitely filled some of those roles throughout this transfer window. And yeah, Madueke, he might not be the best signing, uh, but I think it's definitely good to have someone there behind Saka. And like you said, not really force Saka into playing in kind of meaningless, kind of easy to win games just because they don't have someone else on the team to fill that role. And another place where there's been quite a bit of depth added actually is the midfield. Um, it has been bolstered with some pretty high quality profiles. You have Zubimendi, who offers possession control from deep, and Nørgaard, too, who brings leadership and defensive discipline. Two hallmarks I think Arsenal lacked last season. And together, that pairing of Zubi and Nørgaard can help balance out Arsenal's forward drive from players like Declan Rice and offer some better defensive structure, which would be especially important against bigger sides with quicker transitions. I think these picks, they're pretty good. They're pretty purposeful. You've got Zubimendi for European nights, Nørgaard for gritty Premier League battles, and both can serve as a platform for more creativity up front. And I think all of this suggests that Arteta is really prioritizing control in the midfield and protection for a back line that is, I guess, currently still adapting to quite a lot of change, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, I actually do definitely like both of these signings. I know that Arsenal has recently been playing Declan Rice as a number 8, as a defensive midfielder role, but we know how good he is offensively, and I think it would be better if you do have him push forward. With Zubimendi, he is like a traditional pure number 8. At Sociedad, all he did was anchor play, build up possession, provide extra coverage for defenders. He's not someone that you go to if you need a long shot goal. Somebody, not a Rodri who will push forward and get you a goal in the 9 minutes. But you know what? I don't think that's what Arsenal need. I think that's the profile that Declan Rice already has. And I think having Zilmeni to complement that could actually be a very good addition. A very solid as well because, you have players like lewis-skelly, an offensive fullback who wants to push forward. You have Rice, Odegaard who want to play forward as well and play centrally. So I do like Zubimendi. And to your credit, I think, yeah, Nørgaard also is a good deal. I think they only got him for like something like 10 or 12 million euros, which makes it an even better bargain deal. He's obviously not at the level of like a starting, midfielder for a Premier League or Champions League winning side, but like you're saying, a good depth piece, and we know that Arsenal has had problems with depth over the last few seasons, so I'm not going to shit on this one.
Yeah, I think I have down here was something like 12 million pounds. I think it is a pretty decent value signing, and again, a position where they certainly could use some more depth, and they filled that role. So I think that's great for them.
I think also
What?
another good thing about Nørgaard, by the way, is like that prem experience is going to be quite big. I think because last season, I know I did a lot of Brentford glazing, and I'm just gonna do it again real quick. I think especially him and Mikkel Damsgaard, they are very like stereotypical prem midfielders. If you know what I'm trying to say, they don't do anything outside of their predefined roles. And while that's not like the kind of player that a Man City or a Liverpool whatever side, I think Nørgaard just fits the vision that Marino just wants, like specifically the physicality, the discipline that Arsenal need to inject into their squad. I think this signing just makes so much sense to me.
Wait, hold on. Did you say Marino?
Oh my god. What the oh god.
Okay. Blooper maybe.
Maybe,
Well,
sure. It's the same
there's
first thing, man. What do you want me to do? God.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay.
God.
Well,
This is a reasonable blooper. I really think this is not that bad of a blooper.
yeah. Well, there's one more position where we have seen a bit of depth. And it's not a super big transfer. I think it is worth mentioning, though. Obviously, David Raya remains the undisputed number one between the sticks. He had back-to-back Golden Gloves and 13 clean sheets last year. Really underscores his elite status. So now you have Kepa coming in on a £5 million clause from Chelsea. Not for headline status, not quite anymore, anyways, an unfortunate downfall for him, but as a strong, experienced backup who has been able to challenge and bring some leadership depth. After Arsenal's intensive search for a backup keeper last season and their very late signing of Neto, I believe on deadline day, it seems like we might now have some reliability in net. Their goalkeeper spine isn't quite complete because they'd probably want a third in the mix for cup rotation, as many other teams have. But overall, this gives Arsenal a lot more confidence to rotate in early rounds without risking stability, and ensures that Raya can stay fresh deep into congested periods on the schedule. He has been consistently great for the Gunners, and any change that keeps Raya healthy for the season is a good one, in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kepa did have a bit of a career resurgence at Bournemouth last season. He has shown that he has the capability to be a decent goalkeeper in the Premier League if you're just as long as you're not putting too much pressure on him. So yeah, if he's a solid backup, but also I do think Arsenal have a decent third option for keeper as well, or at least a potential decent third option in Carl Hein, 23 years old. I think they either just signed him recently for a free, or they got him off of or his loan ended or something like that. I think he could be potentially that other option for Arsenal because he does also have the disciplined like traditional goalkeeping type of goalkeeping uh I guess profile that is like that Raya and Kepa are also gunning for. So I think he's a potential good signing there for like cup matches for Carabao, FA, whatever it is. So I actually think Arsenal are just like dead set in the goalkeeper position because like Kepa is gonna be decent as long as you don't make him the starter and then put a ton of pressure on him. Kepa I'm sure will be decent. Carl Hein I think will develop and get better and better. And David Raya is already like a good enough goalkeeper for pretty much any team in the world. Save like Real Madrid with I don't know, Courtois or whatever. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I forgot that they had Karl Hein for a second there, because I know he has been on loan for a little bit. He was at, I think, Valladolid last season. But yeah, that so they do have three keepers then, and maybe they could make another signing there. Like I don't think it's too difficult to get like another keeper in the lineup, but yeah, you're right. They're probably pretty well off at the moment. I think then so we've covered the midfielders, we've covered Madueke, we've covered the goalkeepers too. Do we want to go to the prospective transfers then, the people that aren't
No. Let's
quite
not dance
confirmed?
around the big guy. Come on, we gotta bring him out. We gotta bring out the Gyökeres, the Victor
Ah,
Gyökeres, the
Victor
number 9,
Gyökeres.
the striker. The Arsenal, we don't have a striker. You can't listen. The project isn't complete yet. We don't have a number 9. Well, now you do. Now you do. And this is the year if you either you everything either clicks this year or like I said in the intro, Arteta is out of excuses. So let's talk about Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, I mean that signing is now all but sealed. I mean we've got the Romano. Here we go. At this point, I think it's a base fee of around 55 million pounds. That's what I've seen, plus add-ons rising to around 65 million. It is one of the most expensive signings in club history, and given how much they've struggled without a proper striker, I think it's completely reasonable. It seems like that transfer is all but sealed, and they finally will have a proper player in that position now. I mean, how many goals has he scored for Sporting? It was like what? I
52.
think it's yeah, and it was like
Yeah, more than
70
a goal a
plus
game, by the
GA.
way.
Right, exactly. He's just a machine. He thrives under pressure, and I mean there's been a lot of interest around him, a lot of interest around strikers generally in the league. But Arsenal they made Gyökeres their priority, and they finally got their guy in the number 9 role. So Arsenal now they can drop the search for a number 9 narrative. It does mean that they have one less excuse if they fail, but they can finally focus instead on integrating him with Rice, Zubimendi, Nørgaard, and their powerful wide runners, and finally have a complete attacking structure.
Right. Well, I think there's one excuse left that Arsenal fans might make if Gyökeres turns out to be a flop, and that is for all the 52 goals he scored for Sporting this season. For how impressive that is, 0 of them were aerial, which is a bit of a problem for anybody in the Prem, but especially so for a team like Arsenal who loves to abuse corners. So I'm not saying this is necessarily too big of a deal because they do have a lot of other players who are going to be able to capitalize on that. And Gyökeres, I think, still has the potential. Even though he's 27, he is like a bit of a late bloomer, a bit of almost like a Jamie Vardy, if you know what I'm trying to say. So I think that can still develop a little bit, but that's going to be the excuse. I'm just calling it right now. If Gyökeres flops, they're going to say that he wasn't the right profile, even though he is, like by all objective means. I'm not saying that Gyökeres is a bad signing. I mean, Gyökeres is a great signing, but if anything doesn't go to plan, I'm just telling you right now, that is the excuse that the Gunners are going to make.
Huh. Okay. I guess there's always something for Arteta to fall back on. I don't know. There are some questions here. He brings a lot to the team. Like you've got pace, you've got power, you've got work rate. He's confident in his game as well. But I don't think he is like a proven big game killer yet. We haven't seen him, I think, in too many super big games against bigger teams. Like a lot of the time that we've watched Gyökeres, in this last season has been against teams in the Portuguese league, which I don't think is known for being super strong. So Arsenal here, they're betting on upside. Like we don't have a quite a prem proven player here, so they're betting on upside over certainty. That could pay off spectacularly, or it could leave them stuck trying to solve the striker problem again next summer, if worst comes to worst. So I guess we'll just have to see how things go for them. They finally have a striker. We'll just see if it goes well, I suppose. So Gyökeres is just about done at this point. Like I think it's all but confirmed that he's going to show up. There is another pretty big player that we're not quite so sure about. That is Eze. You want to talk about him next?
Yeah, I do want to talk about him, and I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I do think the as a Eberechi as a transfer will most likely happen, and I'm gonna just say this now because I think he just fits the profile for what Arsenal need very well. He is like, I would say for a left winger, very deep line, very central, and and he's also willing to like go back quite a bit, which is you can see on his heat map for Crystal Palace last season, which will be on the screen now. And I think that fits well, especially because of the type of left back that Arsenal likes to play. So last season, Kieran Tierney was for parts of the season the starting left back, and he pushed forward quite a bit. And soon enough, Arsenal realized that they had a much better option for an offensive left back in obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly. So I think the fact that Essie will be willing to not only just be an inverted winger, but also be an inverted winger who hops on the midfield and the build-up play, who can drop back and let Miles Lewis-Skelly cook. I think that is a really, really good pairing together. And also, like, just compared to the offense they have now, again, I don't mean to shit on the Arsenal offense, but, like, Eze can do this job so much better than Martinelli or Trossard, and so much more consistently, too. Eze, by the way, while being this, like, very pragmatic, dropping back sort of player, I think he's still got, like, 16 goal contributions in the Premier League this season. So he is absolutely very solid and proven. And we've seen in games, for example, like in the FA Cup, that he is a clutch player. Like that's also the profile that Arsenal obviously need if they want to break through and finally win a trophy. So I think this signing just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fantastic signing we've got here. This is a guy who can really just push for he can push for real minutes, a starting position, depending on how Arteta wants to shape the attack. And I don't think he's as much of a system player, and that's what makes things interesting. He thrives in a broken play, in moments where you need something creative or unexpected. Arsenal, like I've said earlier, they've kind of lacked that spark in a few too many tight matches, and I think Eze can bring that for them. And like you said, his numbers last season back that up. Even in a somewhat disjointed Palace team, he hit was it 11 goals and I think 8 or 9 assists in the league. Um, it's some pretty good end product, and all while carrying most of the creative burden. He wants to drive with the ball, dribble into chaos, and open the game up. And if you're like nil-nil in the 75th, 80th minute, that's exactly what you need. If this deal gets done, and it sounds close, it adds another layer to the attacking midfield group. You've got Eze, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Trossard. There's some real flexibility here in the midfield and on the left wing if you want to bring him
Wait,
over there.
is Smith Rowe coming back?
Is
Because I
Hold
know he
on.
played because he played for Fulham last season. I don't know if that was a loan thing or.
Oh shit, no, he did get full signed. Okay, that's
Oh
my
no,
bad.
he's
So
also okay. Okay,
okay,
let's.
so not Smith Rowe then, but still, like Eze here is going to add a lot of flexibility. And the only question now is price. I mean, you talked about Madueke, where 52 million pounds was kind of a concern, and I don't think Palace is going to let Eze go for cheap. If it hits that like 60, 70 million range, it's definitely a gamble. But for a player with this kind of flair and Prem experience, it might just be worth it. And I will say this, Eze's ceiling is high. If Arteta can help him channel his chaos a bit, he has got the potential to be Arsenal's game breaker in Europe.
I think that's completely fair. And like I know I was crapping on the transfer fee for I was scrapping the transfer fee for Nørgaard Madueke, but like if Eze is signed, he will be the starting left winger. Like there's a big difference there, and not only that, he brings in the clutch factor, the dynamism that they need. I took a look after you talked about the goals and assists. So Eze did only get only I think is in air quotes considering the role he played only 8 goals and 8 assists in the Premier League, but he also got 6 goals in the two domestic cup competitions. Which I think the fact he scored almost half his goals this season in just a few games that you get to play in the Carabao and the FA Cup again reinforces how clutch of a player Eze is when you really need someone off the spark. And as we were talking about to his potential, again, I know he's 27 years old already, but I think in his play he's already improved, especially his finishing quite a bit, and there's still some room there. Like he's so good at cutting in. He loves to like cut inside, take a shot from the edge of the box, sort of the sort of profile that Saka, that Mo Salah is. And I think if that continues to improve, then he has a very, very bright future at Arsenal.
Yeah, it's looking like if Arsenal can seal this transfer like they seemingly have with Gyökeres, it's going to be definitely a good addition to the left side. I think that is it, just about it for the transfers coming in. I do want to take a look quickly at some of the people going out. We have a couple players leaving. I did want to talk about first the back line because we have a couple people coming in and we have actually quite a few players leaving as well. Did you have any notes on these guys? I think you said like you didn't have too much on them.
I'm trying to go on scripture right now, so I might miss somebody. But my general take for Arsenal's offloading this season is they just cut off the fat, I think, really. Like, for example, I think the most notable one is Kieran Tierney. But like I said, if you want to have an offensive fullback to pair against Eze, like, Miles Lewis-Skelly is just objectively more fitting to that profile than Kieran Tierney is. And I think just selling him just makes a lot of sense. Like, he's not. I think even if you want, like, even in terms of, like, the backup option, I still think, like, Zinchenko, for example, still fits the role. I'm not saying he's a better player, but fits the role better than someone like a Kieran Tierney. So I just think getting rid of him makes sense. Tomiyasu as well, like he barely got any playing time over the last few years. I think that just like never really worked out. So yeah, he's gone. I think that's fair. I don't even know. Maybe they even sold a few more defenders, but again, not to hate, but like I think if there's anyone else they didn't mention, it's because they probably didn't warrant one.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, with the Tierney move, I feel like it has been coming for a little while now. Since Zinchenko arrived, I think he's basically been sidelined. Stylistically, I don't know that he was ever the greatest fit for Arsenal's build-up. His intensity has been great, but the like technical security that Arteta demands just isn't really Tierney's game. Even when he went out on loan to Sociedad, he got decent minutes, sure, and you could cut him some slack for the hamstring injuries, but I don't think there was really anything to suggest he'd reclaim a role at the Emirates. And Arsenal, they are clearly just backing other profiles now. Guys like Zinchenko, maybe Timber. Tierney just doesn't have much of a tactical niche left at this point. He's given us some good memories early on, and I'm sure the fans loved his passion. But if we're talking direction and fit, I think this was the right time to move on.
Yeah, I think he is. He is like a dying breed of traditional fullback in a increasing football culture that emphasizes like offensive fullbacks, dynamicism, like a new style of play. It's almost like he's like from the wrong generation in a sense. But he's gone back to Celtic, and I think if you want to be a traditional fullback, I think that is a good place for him to be. So yeah, Kieran Tierney, I think good deal for both sides, and Tomiyasu, not worth mentioning. I don't know. I mean, I could go through some other lists for some other names here. So we have Jorginho, who like by the time he got offloaded to Flamengo, I think he's been like incredibly watched for Arsenal at this point. You have Sterling, who is like also not been good, and then I guess you have Thomas Partey, who was somewhat decent as a player, but he is not a decent human. And now you have Zubimendi, so why keep him around at this point?
Ah,
Like we listen, we're trying to kick footballs here, not cats. So I don't understand why
fucking hell.
Partey even stayed as long as he did.
Mm. I mean, yeah, no, those allegations have been around for a couple years now. No, I am
I
kind of
think they're a bit more than just
surprised.
allegations. I'm not gonna
Well,
lie.
yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, when it was first alleged, I was like, what, 2020, 2021? Yeah, kind of surprising he's been around for as long as he has. I guess that basically sums it up for transfers, though. Is there anyone else? We've covered everyone coming in. Eze, Gyökeres, very likely to come in as well at this point. And most of the exits aren't super duper important. I
Yeah,
think,
honestly, for anyone that's watching, I think the only thing you need to know about the people that Arsenal has sold this year is, again, they cut off the fat. They're removing anybody who doesn't fit the profile of the tactical system that Arteta wants to play for the season coming forward. And honestly, you're not going to miss any of these guys. Like it's not going to have any significant impact. I think.
yeah, okay. I guess in that case, we can probably move on to the tactics. And I started with Madueke for the last segment. This time I think I'll go to the midfielders. These two additions we've got here, Nørgaard and Zubimendi, they are giving Arteta some new ways to control games without compromising too much creativity. Which again, like we've said earlier, something that this team could really use in those super close games. With Zubimendi anchoring the base, Arsenal now have a press-resistant, deep-lying playmaker who is calm under pressure and also pretty quick to circulate the ball. Nørgaard, on the other hand, is a great enforcer. He can break up transitions, win second balls, and also give Rice more license to roam. And again, Rice, he can play more like a roaming number 8, crashing the box, or he can press higher too, knowing that he has two midfielders behind him who can read danger early. And in possession, I think this midfield trio will give Arsenal a lot more fluidity than last year. Rice can step up, Nørgaard can shield, and Zubimendi can dictate the tempo from the pivot, offering some more balance than the Rice, Odegaard, Havertz axis that we've seen previously. And even out of possession, Zubimendi's positioning and Nørgaard's tenacity will be great for cutting out counters. Truthfully, I think this midfield it has some real bite.
Yeah, I think with the way that Zubimendi is going to play, obviously, like Declan Rice again has been forced to drop back a little bit defensively for Arsenal, just because they don't really have someone else to be there. So now that you do have Zubimendi, he first off substitutes lewis-skelly in case of any counterattacks and gives them that much more solidity, and then it allows Odegaard and Rice, who are just very playmaking, offensively minded midfielders, to push forward more, and this gives them a lot more. It gives Arsenal a lot more fluidity, and it makes it a lot easier to break up counterattacks. And with that sort of profile, with the way that they're going to play, I think I made this analogy to you off the pod, but I think the way Arsenal will set up offensively this season will be very similar to what I saw of Chelsea in the Club World Cup. Because what I expect that you're going to have is the same way that like Chelsea had that offensive right back in Malo Gusto, who's pushing up to the same line as the midfielders and attackers. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly will continue to do the same thing, only from a left back position for Arsenal. The three other defenders will stay back, be that back three. And Zubimendi, I think, is just good enough. He has the quality, he's shown this repeatedly, to be that anchor, to be that one who links up the play, who is the anchor, prevents Arsenal from losing possession, and distributes the ball from the back to the six basically attackers that they will have on offense at any given time.
Yeah, okay, that works. Some strong additions here definitely in this midfield area. And I think if we're done there, I guess now what we've got to cover is the attack and how Arsenal are going to integrate their new striker, Viktor Gyökeres. He is going to change everything up top for Arsenal, no question, now that they have a proper number 9. You have a true focal point who can occupy the center backs, link play, and crash the box with some real intent. Last season, Arsenal they often lacked a presence in the penalty box in tight games, especially when you had Jesus dropping deep or Havertz drifting off. So now Gyökeres can fix that by staying central and really driving at the defenders. And with him as the lone striker, you can expect more vertical play through the middle. Saka and Martinelli will stay a bit wider, while Odegaard can also operate in the right space, feeding off of knockdowns and cutbacks. Gyökeres, he is mobile, he presses well, and he can hold the ball under pressure. And with Arteta's demand for high defensive work rate from the front line, I think he fits perfectly there. And the presence of a traditional nine, again, it creates more space for Arsenal's wide players because defenders can't really cheat wide anymore, knowing that Gyökeres will punish them if they leave gaps centrally. Set pieces, too, can become more dangerous because between Rice, Saliba, Nørgaard, and now Gyökeres, Arsenal, they suddenly look like a real aerial threat again in both phases of play.
Yeah, I think that is true. And another like important thing about this Arsenal team is the excuses about not having a full striker is completely warranted. Just for some anecdotes, last season I think their top goal scorer was Kai Havertz, who had a single digit goal count. Nobody in Arsenal got to double digit goals, and I feel like you anecdotally saw this all the time. Like especially Saka and also the other bums they had in the attack would be often forced to just shoot the ball outside the box or just try to like do something on their own, and it caused them to take a lot of bad shots. Overall, they scored 69 goals in the Premier League this season, which is actually underperforming them actually by 5 goals. There actually was like something like 74. So like it is really important to have somebody in there, just a clear goal poacher who will get you the goals. Gyökeres is not going to be a false nine pushover or like drop back, be an anchor play. This is not Hugo Ekitike. Viktor Gyökeres is going to stand there in the box as a menace, free up space for Saka, and just give them someone else that they can pass to, that they can reliably get a goal off of every game. Whatever, the defenders try to adapt and just put all the pressure on Saka, for example. So, Gyökeres, I think, is essentially, whether or not he'll be successful is another question, but he will essentially be the Holland of Arsenal. I do not expect him to have any clear presence in the midfield. I do not expect him to do much to even track back. He's just gonna be there in the box, and if you pass him the ball in a good opportunity, he will have one job, and that'll be to score.
Yeah, no, they needed a finisher in the box real bad, and they've finally got it, and they fixed their striker issues. So just being able to get a strong number nine is such a boon for Arsenal. It's great for them. I will say as well, because we've seen just a lot of depth added across this roster. I mean, one of Arsenal's biggest tactical weaknesses last season was fatigue. And this year, Arteta, I think he's built a squad that can finally rotate a bit without losing their tactical identity. In midfield, Arsenal can now call on Rice, Zubimendi, Nørgaard, Odegaard, and the team can maintain intensity across all different competitions. The forward line has also got more tools now. Madueke adds some directness on the right. You have Trossard remaining a versatile option off the bench, and of course, you have Gyökeres there too. I do have some concerns with the back line. Arsenal, they agreed with Tomiyasu to terminate his contract over some pretty reasonable injury concerns, and I've actually seen some recent mentions of Kivior leaving as well. Don't think it's too likely at this point, but it's a possibility. Party's gone too, though that's definitely for the best. And at Arsenal, I think they do have Mascara coming in, Christian Mascara, who we might have actually forgotten to mention at the start in the transfer section. But even if he comes in, like you have a lot of players leaving who would have provided some very reliable depth, meaning less burnout for Gabriel, Zinchenko, Miles Skelly, or lewis-skelly, Saliba, White, over a long season. I still think the backline will be strong, but with what happened last season, it's good to be safe, you know? But ultimately, like they've added a lot of depth here. If Arsenal they want to fight on multiple fronts, they can't run their starters into the ground, and I think this year they have built the squad well to avoid that mistake.
I do think that even though you are adding Mascara, who, by the way, I have a few concerns about as well. Again, sorry to abuse season heat maps once again, but on screen right now is his heat map from last season, and I would just like to say, for a center back, he does seem to spend quite a lot of time on the left, which makes me wonder just how dynamic and reliable he will be for Arsenal. Now, I know, again, like a few of the signings, I should say, he is young. He'll probably grow and get a lot better, but for now he's a solid backup piece. And even though you have brought him in, the fact that you now have gotten rid of both Tierney and Tomiyasu means if you sell like Kiwior, now you're getting a little bit shady at the back there. Like assuming that Kiwior leaves, you basically will just have Zinchenko, Mosquera, Calafiori, and Timber as like your only somewhat reliable defenders. And when we saw last season the defensive fragility that Arsenal had in that like when Saliba gets injured, when somebody on that team is off, like they don't have a lot of backups to substitute in that are good enough to play in the Premier League. I don't think it's advisable basically to sell Kiwi or anyone else in their backline because you don't want to risk that happening again.
Yeah, no, there have been so many players that have left this back line already. I think they've got to do what they can to keep whoever's left around. But yeah, ultimately, I think it's not a bad transfer window for Arsenal here. They've added depth in the positions where it's necessary. They had issues with goalkeepers last season, so they cleared that up with Kepa, and obviously they fixed their striker issue. That's definitely the biggest thing with this window, as they've finally got a number 9, and they don't need to bring just like random players in from other parts of the front line in order to fill that role. So that's pretty good. And with their now much more complete roster for this season, I want to, I guess, take a look at where we think they're going to go for next season. So I think we should start our target segment if you're all right with that.
All right. Let's talk about domestic targets first. What does Arsenal want to do this season? Win the league. Obviously.
Always.
They have been third 3 years in a row, and now you have just signed Viktor Gyökeres, who is the one issue the one real excuse that Arsenal had, and also you're probably going to sign Eze, who is the other excuse you have offensively, and then you sign Zubimendi. I think whether or not they will be able to with this transfer window that Arsenal have just had, especially with the frugality that they've had recently, and with what Mikel Arteta keeps promising is just around the corner. I feel like Arsenal almost has to win this season, or else Arteta is in big danger, and this whole project is in big danger. So yeah, that's clearly the goal in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal have been runners-up for 3 straight seasons in the Prem. They have not won a single proper trophy since the FA Cup at the start of COVID. And I say proper because they did have the Community Shield, but they only got into that
Didn't
because...
they just won like a friendly tournament against AC Milan in like Singapore today.
Right, I saw
So
that. Congrats.
yeah,
It basically
yeah.
Tottenham.
Congrats on fucking Audi Cup, bro. Tottenham,
Nice.
this is Tottenham reincarnated over here. Holy
Dude,
shit.
and the thing is, people already question the Community Shield, but the worst part is they only got into that because they were second that season. Like they didn't win FA Cup or anything. They just got in as Prem runners up, and I guess they stole a small trophy off of Man City. These guys desperately need something proper. And knockout cups are great, but given their recent record in the league, they will be willing to sacrifice quite a bit in order to win it this time around. I mean, they smashed club records 2 seasons ago. They had 91 league goals in 23-24. And then last year, like you said, they faltered. They underperformed their XG. They ended up with just 69 goals. And their first aim, I think, here will be to bring back that attacking threat. That's where Gyökeres should hopefully have you covered. And Arsenal, they aren't usually the greatest at keeping goals out, save for their invincible season and then an amazing 98-99 season. They're historically not the best at that, but in the last 2 seasons, they've done all right with 29 and 34 goals let in. And I think if they aim for somewhere in the middle of that range, they'll do all right. Arteta's eye on domestic cups is going to remain sharp, especially after that third round loss to Man U last year in the FA. And with some deeper rotation, Arsenal can push in both the FA and Carabao Cups without compromising the title chase too much. But again, the Prem title is what they desire most, not even a question. And if they do have to choose between the league and the cups, I'm sure they will take the league any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, even a cup would be nice at this point because the coffers have really been running dry. Like, yeah, they basically have nothing this decade
Dude,
besides actually winning
Tottenham
shit.
have a Europa, man.
Bro,
So
yeah,
you've
like
got to
you
get
can't have your
something.
cross. The one thing Arsenal have had this generation is at least their crosstown rivals are even more down bad than they are. And they can't even say it anymore because at least Tottenham now has the Europa League. So dude, the pressure is so on. If you can't win the Premier League, which I think is like fair because because like Liverpool and City have had as good, if not better, transfer windows than you. At least win a League Cup. At least win a Carabao or an FA Cup. You have to win something domestically.
Yeah, I think, like, I think they could take a cup, like they could settle for something like that. I just don't think they will at this point, having had those 3 seasons straight in second place. I feel like they really will try for the Premier, and it might come back to bite them. I don't think there'll be enough. I am quite confident that Liverpool will win back to back with the transfer window that we've had. But I think Arsenal will still try, just like for pride purposes at this point, just trying not to be second place again. I guess then we can go to their European ambitions. I mean, I think the goal in Europe uh, is simple. Just go one step further. Maybe they don't necessarily need to win the UCL. Like I wouldn't expect them to. But last year's semifinal loss was a bit painful because of how well they had played in the build-up. I mean, they like dominated the round of 16. They showed some real resilience in the quarters. Obviously, they destroyed Real Madrid. They're going to want to reach the final this time. And if they do want to get that, composure is going to be key. Matches against heavyweights like Bayern or Inter are going to demand control in the midfield, and that's where those signings of Zubimendi and Nørgaard become essential. Those two allow Arteta to play with a bit more discipline and possession, and now Arsenal have the tools to slow the tempo against Europe's elite, kill transitions, and grind out some results. The squad is deeper and the minutes can be spread a bit more wisely. It was a problem last season where they were compromising domestic form since they had to rotate in order to take care of those midweek games. And I think they are clearly ready to fix that problem now. This team, they should not be trying to just survive the Champions League anymore. They're going to want to own it. Do I think they will do that? No. I don't think they're going to win the UCL, but I do think that they have potential to get past the semifinals, at least get a final at the minimum.
Maybe here's the thing though. If you look at the depth that Arsenal has compared to Liverpool and Man City, it's just significantly less. Like I think at most they have like the starting 11, and then maybe you can make one backline of semi-competent players. But like for Liverpool and City, you can almost make like three good teams. So I think there's a big difference there, and so yeah, if I'm Arsenal, it's risky, I know, but you have to just go for one thing, either the Champions League or the Premier League, and I think probably it will be the Premier League. I mean, almost definitely will be the Premier League, and it's unrealistic to ask for a treble. Like the goal for Arsenal is not a treble the way that it is for Liverpool and City. So I would say that like Champions League is just doing like decent enough will be nice, but it's just not going to be the focus. The only way it might be the focus is if again Arsenal gets into a situation where the Premier League is like just basically decided like early on, sort of the way it was this season. Then you can focus it on the Champions League, and then I think you actually do have the capability to potentially make a final, like you're saying. But unless at some point they are forced to pigeonhole their way into that, I just don't see them doing that well because they're just not going to focus on it.
Yeah, I do give them like a decent chance to get through to the final. Obviously, they're not a favorite to do it. Like you have teams that can come in before them: Liverpool, Man City, PSG, assuming they bounce back from their Chelsea game. I'm like they're definitely teams that are ahead of them in that race to the UCL final, but it does help that it's a knockout competition and every game is a fight for your life, and they might manage to win out in some of those matches. But yeah, you're right. Realistically, like they need to choose between domestic and European, and more likely between Prem and UCL. Uh, but again, like I'm just wondering, at this point with all these second place finishes and like getting achingly close to the final last time around, like will the fans be desperate at this point to just get anything, or will they be like we need to win it all? Because like that's basically two quite different directions that they could
Please
go. So I'm
listen.
wondering what
If
the
any Arsenal
expectations
fan
will
is
be.
saying that at this point, just please stop being a gooner and start being a gunner. Honestly, like that's so unrealistic for this team. Yeah, you got a
Oh my
fucking Viktor
god.
Gyökeres. You still like you. There are other options. There's still fucking Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus. Your backup left wingers are still Gabriel Martinelli and fucking what's the other guy's name? And Leonardo Trossard. Like you can't expect too much from this team. Please give at least like here's the thing: if you win a trophy this year, even if it's just like Carabao, at least you prove that you're able to win something. And in the future, you can sign better options, get more depth. People will be more convinced to join Arsenal because that's the main thing right now. People don't want to join Arsenal because they don't know that they can win anything here. If you just do that, that's such a big stepping stone for the future. And then maybe if this year you win the Premier League, next year we can have trouble talks. Like basically like what Liverpool had. This year they win the Premier League. They kind of underperforming in the other tournaments, but that's fine. And now next season, they're able to attract Florian Wirtz and Jeremy Frimpong, etc., and then next and Hugo Ekitike, and then they can contend for everything. Arsenal, you're a step behind right now. So just win the Prem first, and then we can talk about everything else.
Mm, yeah. I don't think this roster. No, this roster is definitely not cut out for a Prem and a Champions League. I'm sorry to say. Like I've been talking about all the depth they've added. It's still not enough. Like we definitely have more depth with other rosters. Again, we look at Liverpool, we look at Man City, especially. I agree with you. I think they've just got to focus on the Prem. That would be the smart thing to do. It's just I don't know if that's what they'll end up doing. They could end up getting very ambitious, though. Maybe with their cross city, well, not quite cross city rivals, with Tottenham winning Europa, them finally getting a trophy. Maybe the fans get a bit more desperate. Maybe the team gets a bit more desperate. And I honestly think that would be best for them. So they can just focus on winning something. Getting anything into that trophy cabinet would be nice, I think. And I guess, yeah, the ambitions for UCL then, it's like a final would be great, obviously. Do I expect them to win it? Definitely not. But maybe they can get to the final because, again, it is a knockout competition. So who knows what happens there.
I think that does it then. Honestly, I mean, yeah. Listen. I just want to say, if you win the Premier League this season, we all have to shut up. Like the football community can no longer shit on Arsenal. Maybe Arsenal has a redemption moment. I think Tottenham has had their redemption moment last season. Maybe 25-26 is Arsenal's redemption year. I have been saying privately to you and the other members of the crew that I think Arsenal have a better chance of winning the Prem than people have been giving them credit for. I've said that like many times this offseason, much to the disdain of some of you, especially Kaibo. And I'm gonna just repeat it again. I'm not gonna say whether or not I do have them winning uh, the Premier League at the end of the day because we're saving that for a future video. But I actually think that they have a decent chance. Like I really like the tactical setup that's happening here, and just go all out on it. While Liverpool and Man City spread themselves comparatively more thin, there's a chance.
I mean, unfortunately, I still gotta back my guys for the title. But yeah, like I think they can redeem themselves with the trophy for sure, as long as they have just the right focus. They need to not get too ambitious. Like they do not have the roster here to be ambitious and go for a treble. Even a double is very questionable here. But I think they'll just have to play through the season for a bit and hopefully for them anyways make the right decision on what trophy they've got to focus on, whether it's Prem or if they fall behind there, maybe focus in on one of the knockout competitions and hope you can do well in those fight for your life matches. But yeah, I guess that just about settles it for Arsenal. Not a bad window, honestly. And I think people were kind of doubting them because their window wasn't as great to start off. But they've finalized quite a bit now. They've got Gyökeres. Seems like they're going to have Eze too. So it's looking pretty promising for them. And maybe they can finally follow their North London rivals and get something new in their trophy cabinet.
All right. Well, I think that being said, that is officially going to do it for this episode of Tactics, Transfers, and Targets. We will be having, I think, one or two more before we start transitioning to this general Premier League and Cup talk with the Community Shield, the European Super Cup, still coming soon. So, as per usual, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment if you have anything to say, and subscribe. And stay tuned, because I think we're going to probably talk about, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, probably like a Chelsea or a Newcastle on
I think
Saturday.
Chelsea would work
Yeah,
out. We'll see what we
probably
do.
most likely Chelsea, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure yet, so I don't want to say it for sure. But we do have, obviously, there are other big teams in the Premier League. There has been a lot of hype on Chelsea recently, especially after that Club World Cup win. So, yeah, just stay tuned. Videos releasing. This should be Thursday. I think that will release later in the weekend. So, yeah, again, if you're enjoying the content, like, subscribe, help us out in the algorithm. And yeah, peace out.
Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you soon.